Hey everyone, in this video you're going to learn how to make a desert landscape in oil paints. So stick around and let's get started. Alright, welcome back. I'm Ryan McCormick and this is Gallery Bry, where you can learn all about oil painting, gouache painting, and even art and marketing. So if you want to improve your painting, grow your art business, make that commitment now by hitting the subscribe button and hit that notification bell. And if you're new, make sure to comment new below so that I can introduce you personally. So with that, let's jump into the painting.
All right, everybody. So for this desert sunset painting, I started by sizing the paper for this commission with GAC 100, which is an acrylic medium basically. And it does a couple things. It protects the painting from the paper, and it protects the paper from the painting so that you don't get surface-induced discoloration. And then after that, I toned it with a little bit of Venetian red because the client wanted some pops of red to come through in the painting. After that, I drew in the general layout of the composition to place the mountain and the cactus and some of the shrubs. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just blocking in the general colors and shapes and some of the lights and some of the darks for the composition. So in art and design, there are a couple different elements. You have line, shape, and form, and these make up pretty much all elements of a painting. A line is one-dimensional, a shape is two-dimensional, and a form is three-dimensional. When you're blocking in, you're really going to be working in the two dimensions. You're not really rendering too many forms, you're really just trying to block in two-dimensional shapes, and this actually helps with the painting because you're focusing on less detail. You have to think less about drawing a very specific thing instead of just drawing shapes, which is when you want to focus on. So right now I'm working on the sky a little bit. I usually work from the sky down, and I usually work from dark to light, lighter on the horizon, darker as you go up, and that's typically what you see in nature. And I use Payne's gray for my blue. I find that it's a really great color for skies because it knocks down the saturation and chroma of the blue. The version that I use is from Gamblin, and they have ultramarine, ivory black, and a little bit of yellow, I believe, in there to make their gray. And I'll have all the materials that I use down in the comments so that you can go down in there and see what brushes I use, what paints that I use, mediums, and so forth, so that you can have a better idea if you want to use some of these materials as well. I'm not sponsored by them, but I thought that it would be helpful information for you guys to have. So right now, what I'm doing is just trying to work on the values a little bit more. Values are essentially how light or dark a color is, and these are really what make the painting work. So there's a saying that goes that values do all the work and color gets all the credit. So color is really what you see first, but values are what's underneath and what make the painting look the way that it does. And if you think about it, you can have a perfectly well-constructed composition and three-dimensional form in black and white in no color. And those are the values, how light or dark something is. And a lot of times too, they're relative to what they're next to. So when you're creating a painting, you're always having to adjust them. So if you put a dark down and then you put another light next to it, you might find that maybe that dark is too dark, or maybe you need to lighten it up a little bit, or maybe even darken it a bit. And the same thing goes for the lights. You might put something down and think that it's a light, but then when you put down a highlight, maybe you realize that that's actually a midtone. So, it all depends on what it's next to. And it's all relative as far as light and dark goes. But typically I try to put the darkest darks in first because shadows are usually underneath things, and it's much more difficult to put a shadow in later if you have a highlight in, because then it lays over top of the highlight and it just gets messy. And so this painting was made in multiple layers over multiple days, and this is oil paint, And the way that I layer it is I use a medium. I use Galkyd gel, which is an Alkyd medium, which is a fast drying medium, typically dries within 24 hours. And that way it enables me to make one layer one day, and then I can go in the next day and go in with another layer and layer right on top of that and not have to worry about getting muddy color. And this works good if you're working in a little bit more detail and you're working over a period of multiple days. And I find that it works really well. There's all kinds of other mediums. You can use just linseed oil, but it's a little bit harder to layer because you're typically going to be working alla prima all at once with that, because the linseed oil takes a long time to dry. And there are other things like cold wax. I mean, there are all kinds of different mediums, but for the purpose of this video, I used Galkyd gel. It also creates a little bit more of an impasto effect, which retains the brush strokes. You can actually get it pretty smooth. It just depends on how thick you lay down the paint. So right now I am going in and I'm adding some mid-tones, I suppose, to the painting, some of the shrubbery and the foliage in there. And I wasn't really going for a highly detailed painting for this commission. I was trying to keep it a little bit more impressionistic, and I used the same size brush for the entire painting, which is a 6 Princeton Catalyst. It is a synthetic bristle, so it's very firm, and it's an angled bright, which means that it's kind of like a flat, but it's on an angle, so it has a pretty nice tip to it, and it enabled me to get some finer details in there. Now, I saved the cactus for last because it's the main focal point of the painting, and I put it on one of the thirds. And as you'll see, I don't really use a lot of brush strokes with it. I was really going for a very limited brush stroke number for the cactus, and it actually turned out pretty well. And I thought that it was very good suggested detail. And now I'm just putting in some other highlights, and that's pretty much it for the painting. So hopefully this was a good tutorial for you guys, and we will see you guys for the next video.
All right, everybody. Hopefully that was helpful. If it was, please return the favor and hit that like button. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so that you don't miss the videos that come out every Friday. So with that, hope you're doing well, and we'll see you next week.